So now we will move from Thailand to Borneo, right?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, okay. So my topic is on the language use of the immigrants, recent immigrants in Kota Kinabalu. And my focus is to find out language use and attitudes in multilingual community, and only focusing on the recent migrant groups. And I'm just talking about Sulu and Bajau communities, okay? And those people, like Sulu and Bajau peoples, have inhabited the northern Borneo since the time of Sultanate of Sulu. So it has a long history. But so there are some groups have a long history of living in Kota Kinabalu or Borneo, but other groups are quite recent immigrants. Okay, so in Sabah province in Borneo, there are 3.5 million population, but yeah, as you can see, like 900,000 registered migrant workers in the province, and also there are illegal migrants or refugees, and they are estimated to be more than 1 million. So you can see how large the percentage of the illegal or documented immigrants are. So there are examples of indigenous ethnic groups, and total of like 33 or 42, depending on the article. And Kazdan Dusun people are the largest in number, like 20%, and Bajau people are like 16%, and less than so the Suluk people. And there are several names of the same ethnicity. So Bajau people are called Sama in the Philippines sometimes, and Suluk people are called Tausug in the Philippines. But I stick to the term Bajau and Suluk in this presentation to avoid confusion, because those are the terms that they call themselves in Sabah. Okay, so I went to the community of the Sulu and the Bajau people who are composed, who are all immigrants from the southern Philippines from 1970s and 1980s. Okay, so I like to see how they keep their own ethnic languages, right? And also in Sabah area, there's Indonesian workers and peoples from China, consisting of like more than 7%. Okay, so this is Philippines and Borneo Islands. So the Sulu Islands are here, and the Sulu beach was quite large. And the Sulu people used to live in the south part of the Palawan Island. Yeah, Palawan, and also the Sulu Islands here and northern Borneo. So this is Sabah province, and most people come from the Philippines, landed to only here, like in the circled in yellow, like Lahadatu or Semporna, and move to Sandakan sometimes, and some groups move to a red circled area, which is Kota Kinabalu. So there are Muslim majority, and there are around 5 million people in the Philippines. And so Sultanate once had a rule over the northeastern part of Sabah. So that's why, and also there was once the claim from the Philippines that the Sabah area, one portion of the Sabah area, should be included in the Philippines. So it's a long history of go back on the forth for Sulu people and Bajau as well. Okay, but from the 1970s, there's a conflict, right? So many people fled from the Philippines to for security and job opportunity. I have to move it quick because of time limitation, sorry. And the sociological study was conducted in Bajau Sulu communities in Kota Kinabalu, and interviewing and distributing sociolinguistic questionnaire. And I found out that education is not stable in those communities. They can be accessed by Malaysian state schools for compulsory education, but sometimes it is not easy. And it is very difficult to get higher education without Malaysian citizenship. So some communities have their own religious schools, but it's confined to like religious study in Arabic language and also Quran, Al-Quran. Okay, so this is the community. I want to join the Wing Party here, and this is the Pasavikan fish market, and the most people working here are either Baja or Sulu, right? Okay. And this is the how we got the study, because most of them are not well literate. They can write their names or read, small sentences, but not really fluent in writing and reading. So we did, orally, we did interviews orally. So this is the community doesn't look very, very beautiful when the water is low, but when the water is full, this looks quite nice. Okay, so Sulu communities were where this study was conducted was like Pro Gaya. There's floating houses, like I showed you, and also Pro Saga, as half floating houses, and half floating and half on the land. And it's a condominium and a settlement project by Sabah government, like 20 years ago, something like that. And for Baja communities, floating houses in Prograya only. And Suluk and Baja peoples often live in the same community together, and also especially in Prograya, this is true. And respondents are in their 20s to 70s, born in 1951 to 2003. And peoples in 40s and 50s are mostly second generation, and people in 30s and 20s are mostly third generation immigrants. And all are competent in both ethnic languages, the Bajau and colloquial Malay of Sabah. And for the family background, most marriages occur intra-ethnically. So Sulu people marry Sulu people and Bajau to Bajau, like that. But Sulu and Bajau intermarriage is sometimes observed. And less common is the intermarriage with Malay, but it can happen. And most of them have parents of the same ethnicity, of course. And there are 49 people who are married in my study. Altogether, like 67 out of 67, 49 people are married. And mostly are married, like 84% to the same ethnicity. So 4 couples are Sri Bajau, 2 married to Malay, and 1 Buton Kadazan. As for education, most of them do not fulfill the compulsory education. So some women born before 1980 do not receive any formal education. Many quit elementary school in the middle, like 2 years or 5 years. And so for the occupation, mostly restricted to those which do not need academic background at all. And for male, they work as a fisherman, boatman, or fish merchant, and a vendor or construction worker and teacher, and some who have who had the opportunity to get a higher education, get a job as a teacher or religious leader. And as for females, there are housewives or vendors, not really much choice. And first generation immigrants predominantly use Sulu, but competent in Malay as well. And second, third generation immigrants are bilinguals. And in the floating house communities where Sulu and Baja peoples live together, they often learn the other ethnic group's language. So, and they say that Sulu people say, like Baja, the Baja language is quite easy for them to learn. And Baja people say the same thing about Sulu language. But in the Philippines, the Tausug people, like Sulu people and Baja people, both of them say those languages are quite different, right? So I'm really bit confused. But this is what I interviewed. And so this is the ethnic languages are inherited, retained, and used very often. So most frequently used language and most competent for many speakers, and many speakers are most competent in their ethnic language, and the language that are used when praying privately or being angry. So it's a kind of spontaneously used language for them. So this is a typical case of diglossia. So ethnic language is used within the community, informal situation, and it is naturally acquired language. But Malay is used outside the community in informal situation and learned language, schools and TV and the internet. Okay. So academic background and occupation and family ties influence language use. So higher education leads to more frequent use of Malay, and people working in shops and restaurants in Kota Kinabalu city use Malay more frequently, of course. And strong ties to family members in the Philippines may lead to the use of Tagalog or Visaya as well, and also their ethnic language. And there are some people going back and forth to the Mindanao. And gradual language shift to Malay may occur in the future. So because second generation, third generation immigrants tend to use more Malay since they have more friends outside the community. But within the family, ethnic languages are used most often, except for very young family members, born after 2010. So this is the data. So language, so altogether 67 Zulu respondents. And the most competent language is Zulu, like 1%, and some like 35% of people said that both Zulu and Malay. And most used language is Zulu, and both Zulu and Malay. That's the same percentage. And language used within a family is predominantly Zulu. So like 70% to grandparents, 86% to parents, and to spouse like 70%, children to 63%. So I think their ethnic languages are well kept. So to Zulu people, to the community, you see, their ethnic language. The Zulu people use Zulu most often, like this. But to the same generation, Bajau is sometimes selected by some people. And language used outside the community for Zulu people, to the stranger, colloquial Malay of Sabah, also clerk, to the clerk, and to the teacher or shopping in the town, they use Malay quite often, of course. And shopping within the community, they use Zulu language, like 32%. Zulu and Malay, 32%, and colloquial and Sabah, 32%. Yeah, and Bajau. So sometimes they can use Bajau to for the shopping. And when angry, Zulu people answered, they use Zulu. And praying privately, Zulu, like 57%. And some people answered Arab, Bas Arab as well. And when counting money, they use Zulu, and also Zulu and Malay. Okay, and talking to a baby, I see the number is like 40%. It is a baby who doesn't speak any language, not yet. So almost like 46% of them, like half of them, use colloquial Malay and Sabah. So I think it's a gradual language shift is occurring. Okay, so the data from the Bajau people is quite the same. So I just skip it. Like most competent language is Bajau, and the language with the family Bajau, and also in the community use Bajau most often. And but the strangers out of the community, they use colloquial Malay and Sabah, right? So when angry, bajau. But if you see here, like counting money of things, bajau is 38%, and talking to baby, bajau is only 7%, and colloquial Malay is like 66%. So I'm a bit confused. Okay. So about the language attitude, when they are asked what is their favorite language, the Bajau people selected multiple languages, like mostly Bajau and Malay, sometimes Bajau and Suluk, and Bajau and Tagalog. And half of the people selected Suluk, the rest selected multiple languages, mostly Suluk and Malay. So around 80% of parents taught the ethnic language consciously, but the rest answered that their children learned the ethnic language without instruction from the parents. So it is well kept within the community. And as for the question regarding the language they hope their children to learn as a first language, only half of the respondents picked their ethnic language. The rest answered Malay, English, and Arabian. When asked whether they think their ethnic language to be used for a long time in the future, all answered yes. Okay, so recent immigrants from the Philippines, 1970s and onwards, keep using their ethnic languages, even if they are the third generation. So all the people in the community are fluent in their ethnic languages and also Malay. And colloquial Malay of Sabah is used often when angry, counting things, praying privately, talking to a baby who has not begun to speak. So these are signs of both bilingualism and gradual language shift. So it is true that some people often go to Philippines or even get better education there. Some people have Philippine citizenship, but majority of them do not. So more and more people in the community regard Malay as important, the most important language, because they seek job opportunities in Kota Kinabalu or other towns in Sabah. However, their unstable situation regarding citizenship makes it difficult to fully settle in the Malay community or to get a stable or profitable job. So I just want to compare a little bit. I did research in North Sulawesi province in Indonesia for a long time, and I saw the language attrition and language endangerment there. So in North Sulawesi, local indigenous languages are rapidly disappearing, and people born after 1980s or 1990s usually do not have knowledge of their ethnic language at all. A gradual language shift occurred between 1950s and 1970s, but followed by a rapid language shift in 1980s and 90s, and leading to the current process of language death. It's a very sad thing. And Manado Malay, a colloquial Pidgin-derived variety of Malay, became the identity of North Sulawesi population since 1980s or 1990s. So children started to receive education in Indonesian school in the end of 1940s in North Sulawesi, and most people born after 1960 received at least 6 years of education, which led to flourishing of the regional common language, which is Manado Malay, and language shift. So in Kota Kinabalu, immigrant communities, the absence of academic opportunity seems responsible for the conservation of their ethnic languages. So, future prospect, political situation will determine the language use and language attitude of the immigrants. So if they can get the Malaysian citizenship, language shift will eventually occur. But if they are kept in the current unstable condition, no one knows what happens. And the strength of their ethnic identity can change as time goes by. So maybe they will regard themselves as Sabahan, Sabah people, right? The above points should be looked into in the future. Thank you so much.